Thanks so much for your company. I am Pius Kojobaka. Looking at our stories. Projections from the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies, COMAC, indicates that fuel prices are likely to increase at the retail stations from the first pricing window of July starting tomorrow. According to COMAC, the increment is about 2% for petrol and about 5% for diesel and 1% for LPG. Chief Executive of the Chamber, Dr. Rivesing Opon, disclosed this at a news conference here in Accra.
Some BDs might have bought products within the window when prices were high, and that's the more reason why we pick the average. We also have the average of this average with the floor price that MPA gives us. So basically, we are looking at a two system that are both very, very relevant in terms of looking at the pricing outlook. However, one thing we've seen in this country, and I believe that I can say that particularly today, when fuel prices were going up, most of the calls I had was why the fuel prices were going up and we don't see that effect in the pump price. And that's why I always say that we are in a country where it takes time for global benchmark prices to have effects on our pump prices. So at the same time, when fuel prices are going down, please, media houses, be patient with us. That it takes time to outsell those that we had bought when fuel prices were up in terms of the international benchmark prices. So we are looking at just 2% increase in petrol and LPG around 1%, but I think diesel is around 5%. I need to check my figure, which we are concluding today. We will surely make the reports ready available to all of you.
All right, so let's expand this conversation further. Joining us via Zoom is the Executive Secretary of COPEC, Duncan Amwa. Thank you so much, Duncan, for agreeing to speak to me here on Business Live. What are your thoughts about COMAC's reasons to increase prices at the pumps from tomorrow?
Pius, let me say good evening to you, to your viewers. Indeed, we have our calculations that also indicates that there could be some marginal increases across board. You talk of petrol from $691 a metric to $740 a metric, diesel $625 a metric to around $722 a metric. You have LPG $456 a metric to about $492. There's been some increases that I must admit, but these are increases that we at COPEC expect the market to absorb. We are not expecting prices to go up. I mean, as is being reported, there could be some stability. Stability in the sense that you have a market that, as of the current window, which expires midnight today, some should have gone down completely. They couldn't. And so you already have very high prices at the pumps. And so for a window that we are exiting, for which we should have seen a decline of some averages of 3, 4, for which some could not go down. If you are entering a new window and you are getting about 1 and 2% for the product, our expectation as COPEC is that there will be rather stability at the pumps for products across board than seeing an upward adjustment. Dr. Opon is right when he says that indeed international market prices have gone up, but these are still within the current window projections, for which, like I indicated, companies like Goil, Total should have declined on prices. But due to what we learned later to be Lacan disruptions, and then again, very high cost of operations for some of the oil marketing companies, they could not reduce their prices. And so we'll be surprised that everybody will just go out there tomorrow to say that they are increasing prices. Our expectation is that the pumps would stay stable for this new window that we are entering for July 2025.
That's fine. Granted, these 2% for diesel and 5% for petrol is anything to go by. What's going to be the adverse impact on consumers, especially when we are enjoying the gains of the cedi?
That is why I indicated that the cedi has been relatively fairly stable. Of course, if you are looking at what we had indicated earlier, the unspoken rule of $1 to a liter. And today, you still have the cedi averaging about 10.23, 10.3, 10.8. And then you have some of the oil marketing companies clearly trading above 12. It should tell you that there's a discrepancy somewhere that needs to be corrected. We would expect them to use this window to do those corrections and not to go adding any new pursuers to the already high prices that we have at the pumps. We are not expecting them to increase. That's it.
Well, COMAC has spoken, and July 1 is just tomorrow. What interventions can be put in place to minimize the expected impact as a result of the increase on consumers if these OMCs do not absorb the increase?
Pius, the truth is that the Ghanaian consumer is very sensitive at this point. So do not be surprised that one of the OMCs that used to be in a distant fifth or sixth position is currently the second or number one. I mean, due to very competitive prices that it gives to its consumers. We'll be watching tomorrow. We'll be watching, and I'm sure consumers across the country, your listeners, your viewers, will be following. Those who would maintain prices, I'm sure will go for them. Some would also want to, of course, come with some increments, howbeit marginally. I'm sure we'll be able to publish these numbers, but our expectation is not that every OMC will come in 2%, 5% tomorrow. Already prices are high, like I indicated. Some of them, if I shared with you what the market should have probably been this current window and what we have it now, the deviations we have, you would realize that some of the consumers have paid as much as 5% higher already. And so to come back to add another 5%, I think will be unfair to all of us. We'll be watching, we'll be paying close attention to those companies that decide to be fair to us on prices tomorrow. And for those who decide, as it is, Pius, if you know, if you follow this sector, whenever there are supposed to be reductions, sometimes they go into the second, the third day of the window before they even adjust downwards. We'll be watching tomorrow to see how many of them will be in a hurry to adjust their pumps, upward. But from our indications, pumps could stay stable for this window, and there shouldn't be any issue at all. Executive
Secretary of COPEC, Duncan Amwa, thank you so much for making time to speak to me here on Business Live. Let's shift focus to some other stories. Second Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Matilda Santies-Yedu, has highlighted the critical impact of the Pan-African payment and settlement system on the country's balance of payment, reserves, and cross-border trading. The system rolled out by Afrexim Bank allows cross-border trading to be carried out in one local currency across some African countries. Now, speaking to Joy Business at Afrexim Bank's shareholders meeting at Abuja, Nigeria, Madam Asante says the Bank of Ghana is fully committed to this system because of its impact on the economy.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a true milestone in Africa's financial journey. The official unveiling of the PAP's card, the first ever Pan-African card scheme.
I think it's no doubt that we are committed because PAPS is already very, very active in Ghana. Ghana is one of the main countries, pushing PAPS. And from the Afrexim viewpoint, I think what is now needed is to bring many more African countries on board so that we can transact seamlessly across Africa. You know how difficult it is transacting through other international currencies because we do not, print and issue those currencies. And so a payment system that enables us to pay in Ghana cedis and receive in Naira without having to go through a third currency, I think is amazing. And it helps us in terms of our balance of payment. It also helps us in trading particularly, because we know that trading is also very essential. We're politically very, very stable. We're politically very independent. But when it comes to intra-Africa trade, it's very, very small. And so a currency that enables us, or a solution that enables us to do that seamlessly, I think is exceptional. And I was delighted to hear, Afrexim say that additional countries are coming, more and more countries are coming on board, so we can trade seamlessly across Africa.
I know when it comes to the payment system, Bank of Ghana is even way ahead of his peers, and I even hear that some other countries in the sub-region are coming to you to learn. What should you be expecting from the Bank of Ghana in terms of strengthening the seamless payment systems we have in Ghana and even connecting it to the region as well?
There are regional collaborations that are going on. I just spoke to a deputy governor from Zambia, and they are looking to come to Ghana again as part of the collaboration and knowledge sharing and learning processes. So definitely it's something that as Bank of Ghana we will continue to push. And the reality is that when it comes to digital banking and digital solutions and payment systems across the world, the industry continues to evolve. So our commitment is to also continue to evolve with the industry and make sure that we're catching up with the industry. I mean, when it comes to regulation, there are two main things: the effectiveness of the regulation, and also now with digital banking and digital solutions and payment systems being rolled out across the world, how regulators can catch up. Because if you are able to innovate using technology, then regulation becomes more efficient. And so that's something that the Bank of Ghana has been committed to, leading across the continent, and that's something that we will continue to do.
Well, former President Nana Akufo-Addo has reignited calls for the creation of an African-led credit rating agency. He maintains that current global systems unfairly penalize African nations and undermine their development financing projects. Nana Akufo-Addo revealed this at a program on the sidelines of the Afri-Exim Bank annual meetings in Nigeria.
Discussions that we have been having on the continent in the last 2 or 3 decades all point to one fundamental fact. The institutions that we need to propel our development up till today are not in our hands. Prime Minister Patterson talked about the structure of the IMF. And he was illustrating one simple point. If you don't control the institutions of finance, you will not be able to finance your development. And I think that that is the matter that we need to pay the greatest attention to. How do we develop institutions that can enable us fund our development that we ourselves control? We're asked to pay a risk premium paid by people whose default rates are lower than comparable debts in other regions of the country, whose recovery rates are higher than it is from other areas of the world, largely because of what? Prejudice and exploitation. And we have to understand this situation in order for us to be able to diagnose and do the right thing. But the most critical, the institutions that will enable us to fund our development, the African Central Bank that has been on the table for the last 20 years, headquartered in Lagos in Nigeria, the African Investment Bank, which has also been on the table for the same period, the African Monetary Fund, which has been on the table for the same period. None of these institutions are yet anywhere near being operational. Why is that? Those are decisions we can take for ourselves, and they are the decisions that we need to take. And these are the few comments I have.
Time to pause for a breather. We'll be right back. Thanks so much. You could stay on. And look now at other stories. President of the Institute of Directors Ghana, Reverend Angela Carmen Appiah, has advised businesses to prioritize sustainable decisions while they strive to drive business growth. She urged directors and heads of institutions to ensure that companies are constantly executing environmentally friendly policies. She spoke at a ceremony to induct fellows, members and associates of the Institute of Directors Ghana.
In total, 17 fellows, 112 members and 14 associates were inducted. Established in 1999, the Institute of Directors Ghana is a leading institution with a mandate to promote good corporate governance through training and mentorship. The outgoing president of the 10th Governing Council of the Institute, Reverend Angela Carmen Appiah, charged the new inductees to champion good ethics and corporate governance. She also called on businesses to ensure the promotion of sustainable decisions at all times.
We cultivate stewards who recognize that sustainable development is not a destination, but a journey anchored on ethics. We do have one planet, and so is all the talk about sustainable development. As we push profits, we want to be mindful of the people and the planet. In all of our chasing, what are we sacrificing?
She urged the incoming Governing Council and new inductees to commit to the values of the Institute.
And I pass the baton to you, not just to run as fast as I have run, but to run the best that you can run. Challenge the status quo. Ethical leadership begins when convenience ends.
One of the newly inducted fellows and secretary to the Bank of Ghana, Sandra Thompson, was optimistic that the new inductees would remain resolute and uphold good corporate governance.
To my peers and fellow inductees, we are thrilled to be joining this distinguished group of leaders. Together, we will continue to elevate the standards of corporate governance and leadership excellence that the Institute of Directors in Ghana represents. And so, as we embark on this new journey, Madam President, as members, associates, and fellows of this institute, we commit and we rededicate ourselves to the Institute's values.
One of our lead stories, the Ghana Statistical Service has revealed that 29.5% of Ghanaian households, representing approximately 4.8 million people, are living in slums and informal settlements. Speaking at the launch of the Slums and Informal Settlements report, government statistician Dr. Alhassan Idrisu underscored the urgent need for coordinated action. Here's more.
Nearly 1 in every household in Ghana lives in a slum or informal settlement. The Slums and Informal Settlements report, launched in Accra, reveals that 29.5% of Ghanaian households, representing approximately 1.4 million people, reside in conditions that fall below acceptable standards of housing and urban development. Speaking at the launch, government statistician Dr. Alhassan Idrisu described the findings as a wake-up call for policymakers to prioritize urban planning and housing reforms.
1 in 10 of the localities in Ghana are classified as urban 2 areas and covers barely 5% of the country's total land area. 2, 57% of households, or 4.8 million households, are in urban areas. 3, 46.1% of urban households, or over 2.2 million households, are living in slum conditions. That means that nearly 1 in every 2 urban households is facing 1 or more of the 4 deprivations I talked about. 3, 29.5% of urban households, or 1.5 million households, are found in slums.
Deputy Government Statistician Dr. Faustina Frimpong Angwa highlighted significant regional disparities in rental housing and home ownership patterns.
So we realize that when you live in the northern half of the country, most people own their own dwelling, even though they might be a slum characteristic. And so you see Northeast 77, Northern 69, Upper East and Upper West all above 60%. When it comes to renting, slum areas, the highest is in Greater Accra, 52.5%, followed by Ashanti, 51.8%. And so people who find themselves in these areas are more supposed to be those who are renting.
Women aged 15 to 49 in these communities tend to have more children than their counterparts in non-slum urban settings. The total fertility rate among women in slums stands at 2.9%, slightly above the 2.5% in non-slum areas.
MTN Ghana has officially brought the curtains down on this year's Yellow Care campaign with a heartfelt closing ceremony that celebrated organizations' meaningful engagements with communities across the country. More in this report.
Held under the theme Connecting at the Roots, connecting communities through the use of digital tools, the event highlighted MTN's commitment to creating a lasting impact on individuals in underserved areas through tailored outreach initiatives. Speaking to the media, Chief Corporate Services and Sustainability Officer at MTN Ghana, Adjoa Wiafi, recounted the team's journey across regions, noting how the campaign has positively affected lives.
We partnered with a number of organizations to be able to go across the country to train the youth in digital skills, in mobile phone repair, just things that could give them an immediate livelihood or means of support and a way of living. We also partnered with OITC or TI. With the support of their students, we were able to sew 500 school uniforms. So using MTN volunteers, 500 school uniforms that were given out to deprived schools in rural communities. We also went to Togome. In Togome, the main source of livelihood is pottery making. And we wanted to change the face of the pottery making by making it more modern, and also introducing them to new ways of marketing and, supporting them to look beyond their immediate environs and into bigger markets.
As part of its drive to enhance future outreach, MTN Ghana unveiled a new digital mobile truck at the event. The mobile unit, equipped with digital tools and educational resources, is set to revolutionize how MTN reaches remote communities.
So this digi truck is going to be going to underserved areas where people who would ordinarily not have access to, these kinds of facilities, so that we'll be able to train them in some of the things that we talked about, cloud computing, web design, mobile and phone repairs, and all the things that there's a whole training program around this where we'll have trainers who will go out with them and train people. So it's going to be moving from place to place to place to place.
And that's our package by way of Business Life. I am Pius Kojo Baka. Let's connect at 8 p.m. with Prime Business. See you soon.